Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show. The show is designed to give you solutions to your day-to-day management and leadership problems. It's hosted by Matthew Haddock, a frontline manager and leader with over 25 years of experience. If you're ready, then let's get on with the show.
Welcome to the Manager Matt podcast show, a weekly show designed to give you, a leader, the best possible skills, knowledge and capabilities to improve your performance and get the results that you need. My name is Matthew Haddock and I've been a leader and manager for over 25 years in a number of different industries. Now, today we're going to be talking about something that doesn't sound exciting. I know I've said that a few times because I do some of these podcasts and they can come over as being a little bit maybe boring, maybe it's not as glamorous as some of the other ones. But of course, being boring and consistent is what you need to do to deliver the same thing day in, day out. The customer get what they want, you get what you want, and you get paid for it. But there's obviously, you need to know how you can transform the way you're working and get things better. Now, to do that, a lot of people sort of talk around the old new shiny initiatives. You talk around how this will change everything. Let me show you this slide deck. There's lots of different areas that we can try to make the place better by doing all these fancy stuff. They'll bring in a new computer system that's going to revolutionize how you do things. And of course, change is good in that regard. Scary, but good. It moves things forward. But we're talking about a simple framework today. I've seen delivered results again and again by something around the 3 B's. Back to basics, back to standard, and getting back to the best. And I've learnt leading teams in a number of different environments that we need to think a lot on these lines. Why are we consistently firefighting? Why are our standards slipping? Why does good performance feel so fragile? Because that's what happens, isn't it? You look around and you go, we're always firefighting. We're great at getting problems solved, but where have the problems come from? Why are we failing audits? Why are we failing to do what we said we're going to do? Why are we slipping our standards, or why are we allowing our standards to slip? And why does this performance feel so fragile? When you have a good day or you have a good week, it's almost like, oh wow, that's a surprise. It should be the norm, not the exception. So this episode, we're going to look at how the problems that you face as leaders and how we can try to move that forward by doing back to basics, back to standards, back to best. So here's the truth. Most leaders don't want to hear. Most teams don't fail because they lack talent. They fail because the basics aren't being consistently followed. We don't fail from a need for those people to do things wrong. There's not a drive for people to get things wrong. There's a drive to allow things to slip because we've drifted away from disciplines. We've fallen from excellence because we've allowed our processes to get diluted. Let's give you an example. How many times do you hear people saying, let's just let this happen just once? Let's just do this once. We'll allow it to go this way. Let's just put in a temporary fix. Let's try to make it so that it'll get us by. That'll do. God, how awful is that in a business to hear someone saying that'll do? The big idea is that, if you're going to allow your processes to get diluted, you've got to make sure that you are really hitting your standards correctly. And that means being a owner of the standards. The standards are not optional. This just once should not become the norm. And before you know it, if you allow that, people are busy and results become average. So let's reset this properly. Now the framework, let's look at what that framework's going to look like for this. Well, here's a little framework that might work for you. And let's have a look at it. There's 3 things I've spoken around at the beginning of this one. This idea of being back to basics. Are we doing the simple things well? And are we doing the simple things well every day? Back to standards. Do we have clear, non-negotiable ways of working? Do we have those? And then back to the best. Are we learning from when things go right, not just when things go wrong, and making sure they are there to be the standard, the way forward? Miss one of these things and improvements won't stick. You'll soon slip back to where you were before. So let's try to break those down for you so you get an idea of what those look for. So the first one, back to basics. Back to basics about disciplines before innovation. We all talk about companies being flexible, innovative, we can do this on this and we can make this happen so quick. But of course, if you've got disciplines, it's much easier to innovate. If you don't have the disciplines, then you're not going to be able to repeat it. And that's fine if you're a one-off person who just does a specific thing that's never going to get repeated. But most of us, in a business sense, even if it's a call centre, if it's a production, if it's a business that makes sandwiches, or if it's a business that does metal widgets, it's all about doing something well over and over again. And this is where we sometimes slip up. When we don't go for discipline before innovation, we try to fix complex problems with new ideas, when the simple stuff isn't being done. So we're trying to build our house on poor foundations. You need to ask yourself these questions if you know your basics aren't getting done. Are expectations clear for people? So are we making sure they know what is expected? Are the roles of those people understood? Do people know what they're meant to do and when? Are daily rituals happening every day, even when you're not there? Are leaders visible where they work? Are they visible to the people to make sure that you are setting the standards and making sure the basics are followed? The basics are like this: a clear start of shift expectation, a clear opening up of your shop, a clear display cabinet, how is it done? Simple handovers between people, so when one person's going out, they're handing over the right thing to the next. Consistency, if that's inconsistency in a process, making something, consistency in the quality, consistency in your HR. Are one-to-ones done in a consistent way? Leaders turning up on time and to be prepared. So you're a leader, you've got to lead this, so you've got to expect this. The common failures of back to basic. Everyone knows what they should be doing but don't do it. Assumption is the mother of all failures. Assuming instead of checking. And this one is a killer. Tolerating small misses. If we tolerate the small stuff, it gets bigger and bigger. Leaders also must face the fact that they are hiding. They're hiding behind emails. They're hiding behind meetings. They're hiding behind something they have to be done. They're not where they should be. So how do you make basics stick? How do you make back to basics stick? Be present. Basics are caught, not taught. So make sure you are catching people, make sure you're present with them, and make sure that they know what they're doing. Inspect what you expect. That's a mouthful. Inspect what you expect. So if you expect something to happen, make sure it happens. Now, you might think that's dropping down if you're a hierarchical kind of person, but make sure you are present, making sure you're making sure that the people's expectations are done and you expect it by making sure you're there. Praise consistency, not the heroes. So make sure you are celebrating with the people when things go well, but about consistency, not the superhero who's going to come in and save the day. Look at the person who is there consistently delivering the small things. Remove the clutter. Less process, more clarity. Get rid of the things that don't add value. That can be done through a value stream map, but that can be very important about just setting the standards that you expect. If you want results this year, stop asking what new systems do you need. Start asking what basics have we stopped doing well. So that's the first. Let's go to the second. So you've got your back to basics. Then you've got back to standards. Standards are where performance becomes predictable. A standard isn't just a document. It can be part of a document, but it's the best known way that you know that follows every day the process. So, if you're doing something that is repeatable, which most of us are, the best way to do that is being followed by the same action over and over again. Let's make that a bit clearer. Strong standards, what are strong standards? Well, they are simple, they are visible, they are trained, they are auditable so you can see them, and they are owned by the team, not the management. And that last bit of it is really important. You might have a very simple, very visible, a well-trained and audited, but if it's owned by just the managers, people don't feel part of it, then it will definitely fail. It will fall behind. So make sure your team are involved in those strong standards. What are the common areas that standards would fall down? Well, funnily enough, too complicated. So too many standards. How many times we've got far, far too many standards? Over-engineering it. So if you've got too much complication, again, you need to be simple. So if you have too much complication and you're over-engineering it, you're going to have mistakes. That's how I do it, culture. So if you've always done it a certain way, we've always done it this way, if you allow that to slip in, your standards won't stick because they'll go back to the old ways. And of course, making sure that they are open to the hard truths, because sometimes these things fall down because people won't face the hard truths of it not happening. But if standards can be broken without a challenge, then of course the standards will never stick. It's not a suggestion, it's the standard. And how do we make them stick? Let's lead on to there. We need to co-create them with the people doing the work, as I've said. If you do it on the isolation, it's not going to work. Train, yes, don't just tell. Training is not telling. Training is showing them, it's guiding them, it's advising them, it's making sure they understand it, they can ask stupid questions, because there is no dumb questions when you're learning, but make sure that it's trained, not just told. Leaders must model every day what we say, back to that first point. Owned by the team must be modelled by the team and by the leaders. Challenging anything that goes away from standard immediately, but calm. Consistency will always beat intensity every time. The third one, you've got your back to basics, you've got your back to standards. How do you get back to best? Because most of the time, well, all the time, let's be fair, the business will have been successful. It will have delivered. If you're in a position where you're in a turnaround business, it hasn't gone bad overnight. It's gone wrong for certain reasons. So most teams are brilliant at problem solving. I've said that earlier. But they're terrible at successfully learning. What does that mean? Well, they can fix a problem. Let's get in there. Let's get a solution. But what they don't know is, have we learned to be successful? How do we learn so it don't go wrong? And back to the best is about asking, when we perform well, what did we do differently? What did we do differently when we went well? Best practice already exists in your team. You just haven't captured it. The people will know how to do things well. You just need to capture it. What goes wrong with the back to best? Well, you're only focusing on the failures. You're soon going to go down that route of just dealing with problems, not with patterns. You move too quickly. So you're trying to get to the point where you're running and you're not walking. And you're assuming that good performance was luck. You know, if you're assuming it's luck, then it's never going to be there, because most of the time we're not lucky. We need consistency. And not sharing wins across the team. So when you do get things right and you've got back to best, you need to make sure that people know it, you celebrate it, and you're going to that person, well done, we've been really successful. How do we make it stick? Run when it went right reviews. So we usually have when it goes wrong reviews or a debrief. What went right reviews is a great way of doing it. Capture some simple lessons. So you don't have this big report, you just have simple lessons. And then standardise that success, make it stick. You're going to celebrate the behaviours, not just the outcomes. If people are doing it the right way and the outcome wasn't what we wanted, then that's fine. They've done the right way. We can recirculate it. We can lock back in a best practice and keep relearning and moving forward. We don't want to keep relearning the bad lessons. We want to learn the good lessons. So how are leaders going to kill this improvements this year? How are they going to launch it? How are they going to talk about it? How are they going to move it on? Well, if you want this framework to stick, pick one area first. Look at a model line, a model shop, a model front. Focus on it for 90 days and then repeat relentlessly. And what will happen in that? What do the leaders really get out of it? Well, what they'll do is, we will start to look at this very, very famous thing I've said quite a few times on it. You need to be boring and consistent. Being boring and consistent trumps everything. You're going to talk every day about how it's gone well. You're going to coach people, not criticise them. You're going to hold the line. You're going to make sure you're setting it and holding people to account. And it's sometimes going to get uncomfortable when you hold that line. When you say no, there's a whole podcast on when to say no, and that's coming up soon. But hold that line. Make sure people know your standards and the standards that you and your team have set. What leaders are not going to do, change direction too quickly. Don't flip and flop. Don't do what a lot of people do is, if it ain't working within a few weeks, oh God, panic, change direction. Didn't work, panic, change direction. We're not going to add in new initiatives over and over again. We're going to stick to the ones we're doing well. We're going to ignore the small deviations. There is going to be errors. Things are going to go wrong. Can't overthink those. Those are blips. If they become a pattern, then fine. But in the minute, it's a small problem. You're not going to just delegate it away. You need to be there. You've got to be on the coalface. Improvements will stick when leaders stay the course. So, if today has resonated with you, 3 things that are going to improve. If you really want excellence in your work, if you want to create a team that works well, if you want to get rid of the problems longer term and deliver the results, you need to consistently get back to the basics, get back to your standards, and from there you can get back to your best. Right, well, that's it for Manager Matt this week. As ever, would love to hear your feedback on the show. Put it in the comments, share it, put it on socials, look me up on LinkedIn, friend me, and we'll have a chat on there. But that's it for Manager Matt this week. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Thank you so much for listening to this Manager Matt podcast. We hope you found it interesting, helpful and actionable. One last thing, please leave a quick review on iTunes or with your podcast provider, as it helps to spread the word of Manager Matt. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to the podcast, and if you did like anything in particular, send an email to managermattpodcast@gmail.com or visit managermatt.co.uk for more content. Feedback is a gift, so let's keep giving. See you next week.